Okay, next step. Anyone that was watching the previous video will see that I took out this 22 thousandths of an inch shim and I put in this half shaft before I took out the other half shaft, and I still had a bit of end float, so there was still a bit of in-out movement there. Then I took out this half shaft and I found 3 shims, and in between those shims was gasket glue. So when I cleaned them up with sandpaper and put it back together temporarily with 3 or 4 studs, I actually had no end float. This was buttoned up against the other half shaft, and the test that you do is when you turn this half shaft one direction, the other half shaft turns the same direction, and that's not good because they both meet in the diff, and the diff is meant to turn opposite directions. Whereas now, when I turn this anti-clockwise, this is starting to lift that. So I'm turning this, turning it downwards, we'll say anti-clockwise, and that's turning clockwise, as we see. So that is what we want to see. So the diff is turning opposite directions. That means that the 2 half shafts are not buttoned together in the middle. How I did that was I put in a 12 thousandths of an inch shim that I had in my collection of shims. So 12 thousandths minus 22 thousandths of an inch is 8 thousandths of an inch end float, and that is what they recommend for old bearings. In other words, if you're just replacing the seals and you want to just check end float, and that's exactly what I wanted to do. So we've 8 thousandths of an inch end float in there, right in where it needs to be. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to remove this once more. I'm going to pack the bearings with grease because there doesn't seem to be any grease nipple. And I'm going to take my time doing that and make sure it gets in all around the bearing. I'm going to grease up both sides of the shims because I like them to be able to move a little bit when everything's tightening up. And I'm going to fit new seals to both sides. So now I'm happy that clunking sound has gone out of it as well. You just hear the slightest little bit there, and that's just literally in the splines, so I'm not worried about that. I don't know that I showed in the last video, but there was a clunking sound. So we'll turn a certain amount and then there'll be a clunk. And that clunk was basically as the free play was taken up inside, there was in-out, and that's the clunking I was hearing. So the in-out I feel there is minimal. So I'm very happy with that. Now, if the biggest test is when the wheels are put back on and I let up the clutch, this is a 4 thou of an inch shim. If I feel that things are too tight after I button it up, tighten up all the 6 studs each side, I will fit this 4 thousandths of an inch shim. If that's not enough, I have a very, very thin gasket that I made out of a potato or spud bag. And I have extra gasket paper over there, different thicknesses, so I can do that. There was no gaskets on this. There's no need because it's only keeping in grease, and that grease is not coming under pressure because there's no grease nipple, so it's only going to be whatever I put in. So I'm happy enough now to remove this side, pack it with grease, fit in a new seal, put it back together, and then do the same to the other side. And I'm happy that based on the measurements, that should be it. So out with this half shaft now, and let's get it packed full of grease. So this is the new seal, and if you look in the back there, you'll just see in there that is where the spring is, and they say the spring always goes facing in towards the aisle. So I'm going to use this half shaft wheel bearing collar just to tap it in. Going in lovely. Sounds like it's in. Nice and square. That's it. That's the sound we want to hear. So that is that. And up here, I have pushed in as much grease as I humanly possible, and I've given it a quick use the air gun, very just the odd little dart of it, just to make sure that that is the grease is down, and that does feel like it is really free. So that is ready for, there's one shim on it there, so just rub a little bit of grease on that. Probably too much on it there, if there is, and put it in towards the bearing. And I've also greased up the sealing surface after giving it a quick polish there with sandpaper, and that's all just to give it the best chance possible of sealing. It's not any harder to do a good job, it only takes a little bit more time. So that is that, ready to go. This is the other side here, so we have our two 22 thou shims, and there's a 12 thou there as well. So that is ready to go back on. I was wondering where this came off, and I found out, I'll show on the other side, it actually came from the other side of us. So there's two of them to go on. So let's go and fit that and button it back up, and I can do the other side then. Now, time to put this back on. Our seal is in, our sealing surface is grease. Twist this, that's that coming off, back on, little bit awkward. Keep everything lined up. One, two, and three. Back in. Things keep coming off. Again, an extra set of hands at times would be handy. Okay, and we'll twist where we need to be. Shim's gone forward again. Don't want to go bending them shims. Try and keep them back. Nice and easy, does it? Okay, that's going to go, so I have to grease in there. So I didn't record tapping in a new bush, because I didn't realise, I wasn't sure if I had the 100% right one, and when I found out I did, I just tapped it in. So that's another job done. So now ready to push this home. Pull it in with just two nuts without any washers. First, nice and easy. These can get a little bit jammed if you don't tighten them in evenly. A little bit there and a little bit this side. Okay, so something is a little bit. There we go. Now what to pull in? Let's pull it in nice and even. I can keep an eye here and make sure it's missed. nuts there just to make sure that that's actually feels a lot tighter. I wonder is it that seal that's doing it, the new seal. So yeah, I'm just going to repeat the test with the crowbar on the other side of the axle to make sure it's spinning the right way. So that is both sides buttoned up. I'm very happy with how it feels when you turn the half shafts. They're nice and they turn nice and smooth. That clunking has gone out of the transmission. So it's just the seals now do have a good grip on it as you'd expect. I measured the seals that were in it in comparison with these, and yeah, the ones that were in it were well worn. So yeah, it's turning nice. And before I used to have an awful clunk. That little bit is fine, that's your pinion driving the diff. But before I used to have a bit of free play and then clunk, and then it would turn. So that clunk was the shafts hitting off each other or coming out, one or the other, or both. So I'm happy that that is after sorting it. So I took out, as I said, a 22 tau and I put in a 12 tau. So you're talking roughly 10 tau, give or take. So yeah, I'm happy, and I have a small 4 tau if I do feel, and I put the wheels back on and drive it. If I feel things are a little bit tight, I can always throw that back in on one side, and that'll definitely give me plenty. But I'd say it's good. When you put in new seals, you always will feel a bit of grip on the half shafts, and that's not to say that that's down to them being too tight or the wheel bearings too little end float. So I have greased in there, new bushings, cotter pins all greased up, back in place, greased in there as well, so it's turning nice and free. I just threw on the old shoe there and waiting on them new ones, but it's easier I suppose when one of them's in place to fit the other one. So I will hopefully have them tomorrow, and new brake shoes, but I'm going to use them down a bit more before I do that. That'll be a nice job down the road to do, and I can review things then as well, open up, make sure everything's looking good. So yeah, I suppose with all of that done, the next job will be, what will the next job be? As I said, I'm very happy with the condition of everything in and around there. I gave it a quick clean out. There's no corrosion building up in between the mudguard skin and the frame. So I just have to clean this side a little bit better, that's all. It's a little bit, this is the stuff now that can get damp and hold moisture. So I'll give all of that a nice clean out. Keep it dry, and then every now and again just give it a dart to the air gun, and it'll keep it clean, and that means things will dry up all the better. Same story here, cotter pins all greased up, back in place, footboard back on, and the brake cross shaft is nice and nicely greased. So there's still a little bit of grease and residue down there. So it's not too much that it'll start dripping or making me think that the half shaft seals are leaking. We know that they're not leaking. So same story there. Just feels nice. Turning free, and just hear the drive pinion. I had a listen in there when I was turning this. It definitely is just the drive shaft, the main pinion drive shaft that's making that sound, and that's what you expect. So the job is OXO, so I'm going to finish up there for this evening. Hopefully the new brake parts will come tomorrow, the little springs and the retaining washers. I'll get them on, put on the brakes, adjust them up nicely with her jacked up, and hopefully then I'll be able to finish the fine adjustments by bringing her for a spin. And hopefully now when I let up the clutch, I won't hear that clunk in the back axle anymore. So all will be revealed. Thanks a million for everyone who stayed tuned up to now, And I didn't record much on putting the other side back together because it was basically the exact same as this. Okay, until the next video, take care.